Welcome back to Social Media for News Organizations. This is Dr. T, the professor of the course. I'm here to talk about the tools and the analytics and how to get the most out of your networks. Let's talk about the mobile apps first. The main Twitter app is pretty good. There's others out there. Some people really like Tweetbot. Hootsuite is more powerful than the Twitter one, but I'm pretty comfortable with just the Twitter app itself. You can switch to multiple accounts on that, so it's actually pretty nice. Facebook's Page app is kind of interesting in that you can basically serve as an administrator of a page through it. So if you're working on the social NN pages, you can't do that through the regular Facebook app. It doesn't allow you to. That's solely set up to do your own personal Facebook. In fact, if you go and like things using the Facebook app that Social NN did, and you're an admin of Social NN, it'll make it look like the admin actually liked it, so it's kind of weird. You might want to check out the Pages app. I generally don't use it. I just use it on the desktop because Facebook hasn't really figured this one out. Snapchat, obviously, it's pretty much only an app, so it's obviously pretty good for what it does. Instagram is the same way. It's just really made for social. So these are pretty good mobile apps, and when we should learn from them as we build apps for news as well, what works for these and why they work. You're going to be using TweetDeck for this class for both your personal tweeting and your social NN tweeting. The beauty of TweetDeck is that you can float through from your own account to the social NN account easily enough. Check out the demo on Blackboard on how to use TweetDeck, but it's great. It's a great app and it's used professionally. You'll be able to see why as you get it. At first, it's a little intimidating, I would say, but once you get used to it, it's like a second home. You're going to say, how did I ever use Twitter without TweetDeck? You'll absolutely love it. Bitly is something I'm really excited to show you if you've never used it before, because it's probably one of the most powerful tools to use for Twitter. It allows you to shorten links easily, and you can actually make your own customized links. So you can have it say something besides just gobbledygook at the end. It gives you more room to write characters, and it gives you stats. You can go back and look at stats on any tweet with Twitter's analytics. You don't necessarily need this as much as you used to, but it's still pretty cool. So we're not going to use Google Analytics necessarily in this class unless you want to be adventurous and attach it to different accounts, which you can do. Then you go through and see stats. I just want to show it off because it's important to know that platforms like this exist. And you should explore Google Analytics on your own and get a feel for how it works because it's pretty much an industry standard. Big corporations are going to use more proprietary or expensive stuff in analytics reporting tools, but Google Analytics is definitely something you should know about. And here's another interesting little tool called Klout, klout.com. If you're kind of curious, check it out. It only takes a few minutes to look at it, and it shows basically a score for you based on some kind of algorithm that they put together. They don't explain that well. It's basically based off on how interactive you are, how many high-powered followers you have, that kind of thing. There's been some reports of some companies actually looking at your Klout score to see if you're a good social media user when they're making a hiring decision. I'm not sure I'd want to work at a company that goes by something like that because it really should be more of for entertainment purposes only, but it is interesting. Tweetreach.com is an interesting little tool where you can copy and paste basically the text from one tweet into their system, and it shows you the potential reach of your tweet, especially if it's been retweeted a lot. You'll see a relatively large number. This has been trumped somewhat by Twitter Analytics that rolled out after TweetReach was launched, but it's still an interesting tool nonetheless. Twitter Counter is a nice way to kind of keep track of your followers over time. It has a premium version, as most of these tools do. They give you much better stats, but at least you can get a nice little kind of snapshot of where you're at based on what Twitter Counter shows. One thing I like about it is that you can compare your account to another one. So you can compare with a friend, or if you're at a news organization, you can compare with the competition in town and see who's gaining followers faster. Social Mention is another one that allows you to basically just see more detail on what you're doing on social media. Like I said earlier, a big company will probably use something like Radiant6 or another big analytics tool to give you a really in-depth analytics on what you're doing on social media. What you should know that these kinds of things exist. I would play around with different analytics tools and see what you can do with them. For a lot of them, without the premium pay, you can't do a whole lot, but it's worth checking out anyway. I really like TrendsMap. TrendsMap is basically a really good way of showing off what's trending in particular areas geographically. Of course, it only tracks people who have their location services turned on, which isn't necessarily everybody. So it's not a full accurate picture of what's going on, but it gives you a good idea of what's popular in a certain area at a certain time. If you get really popular for a little while, suddenly you'll get a tweet from TrendsMap telling you you're trending in a certain area. So it's kind of cool. So Facebook Insights is probably the best of the free analytics tools that are available out there. When you go to our Facebook page, one of the social NN pages, and go to the top of the pages, you'll see a tab for Insights. Click on that and explore around it. We have an assignment where you're going to have to do that anyway, but as you're working on your Facebook shifts, it might be a good idea to see what's working and what's not so you can adjust as you go. And Facebook gives you a lot of information about who our people are that are liking our content and sharing our content, so it might give you some insights. Okay, so a couple years ago, Twitter finally unrolled some analytics, a few years after Facebook did, which is kind of nice now to have this Twitter analytics. You just go to analytics.twitter.com to see it as you're logged into any account, and it will give you a pretty good summary of what's going on, what's being clicked on, what the top tweets are, who's following you, that kind of thing. So it's nice to have that from Twitter. Again, as you're working for Social NN Twitter shifts, I suggest you peek in on there every once in a while. And you should do it on your own accounts as well to figure out what's working and what's not. All right, that's it for this lesson. Go ahead and jump back on Blackboard and take the quiz.